All right, three, two, one. We now welcome on a very special guest to Brace Radio, host of Zero Blog 30, longtime Thule, Barstool producer or podcaster and blogger, Uncle Chaps.
Hey
Chaps, how you doing,
guys,
man?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Of course, man, I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. So I'm gonna hop right into it. So back in the summer, you tweeted, you've had sex with your wife over 1,500 times since you've been shot.
Mm-hmm.
I recently got married.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know, is the count like precisely accurate? Are we ballparking here? Do I have to go back and count how many times I've had sex? I know my parents have had sex 3 times confirmed, but I think that's about it. So I need to know.
Yeah, I think I just did basic math. I mean, I did keep up for the first 800 times or so, like really precisely. But then after that, I just kind of let it pile up, I guess, with a little bit of an estimation. So, and I'm honestly a conservative estimation because at the beginning, it's like rabbits, but then it slows down over time.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to give it a loose ballpark because it's only been about 2 months. So I should be able to get relatively around the number and then just go from there.
Yeah.
So you were, like I said before, the host of Zero Blog 30. You were also in the military, the Marines. Can you give the people some of your background of what you did there?
Yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps for almost 10 years. And then whenever I got out, I medically retired after a while with complications from when I got shot, PTSD and traumatic brain injury diagnosis as well. So I retired and then I went back to school, used my GI Bill like a good boy should. And after I graduated there from UTSA, I didn't know what I was going to do. Honestly, I thought I was just going to be a stay-at-home dad. Like I had my military pension, retirement, like the VA and stuff like that. So I was doing okay. And I just thought I would be at home with my kids. I'll just fuck around. So I decided to do a little podcast in my closet. Actually, I had like this shoebox that I took the egg foam stuff from like underneath the mattress, put some of that in there, a little lapel mic, and talked into that in my closet. And I was lucky enough to have Ian Rappaport as my first guest ever on my on my show. And somehow after PFT got hired, some dude that was like an egg avatar on Twitter tagged Dave in a tweet and was like, "You hired PFT, you should check it this dude Chaps." And he did. Like somehow he heard my podcast while he was just chilling at an airport and called me up a couple days later and offered me a full-time gig.
How crazy was that when you got, like, were you a stoolie? Were you embraced in the Barstool culture at that point? Like, how crazy was that to you that Dave reached out?
Yeah, I followed Barstool really closely while I was in the Marines. Like while I was at Quantico, some of my buddies there were from the Boston area. So they had been following Barstool for a while. So I started reading it and I would read like Big Cat and Kevin. And it was when Feidelberg had first started as well. And so then after a while, I kind of stopped reading it a little bit when I was down here in San Antonio. But I knew who Dave was. I like followed Barstool loosely. And so I took a nap one day and woke up and my phone had I had like a million text message, like Dave Portnoy's talking about you on the rundown. And I was like, what the fuck is this about? And because I had been like Twitter buddies with Big Cat for a little bit, like we had DMs back and forth. So I texted him, I was like, what is this about? He was like, oh, Dave heard your stuff. He's interested. If you want me to pass along your number, I will. And I was like, yeah, dude, of course I want you to pass on my number. So whenever he called me up, I had just started to go with this fantasy football company that's now like not a thing anymore, but they were going to pay me like $50 an episode, like 3 times a week to do this fantasy football podcast. And I didn't really care about fantasy football. I just wanted I wanted a foot in the door doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I told my wife, I'm like, if he offers me like $500 a month to be like a part-time person, like I'd be thrilled.
Yeah.
And the next thing I know, he offers me like a legit full-time job with like a legit salary. And I was completely blown away. I had no expectation about any of that stuff was going to happen. And then 4 years later, like if you'd have told me when I got out that in a time period of 6 years that I would be a host on Sirius XM, have a pretty big podcast, do blogs and stuff for Barstool, been like, you're crazy, man. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like,
It'd sort of be like an idol to some vets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's really humbling. And it really does make you kind of stay on your P's and Q's. And I think that's the aspect of ZBT that I love. And I didn't expect it, as where when I got out, I really missed being around my Marines. Like one of my favorite aspects of being in the military was being a leader and being a mentor for younger folks, like when they're coming up. And now I feel like my reach is so much bigger than it ever could have been if I would have stayed in. And people listen to my ideas, they listen to my like leadership thoughts on ZBT, and it's something that is a super big added bonus to this job.
Absolutely. And I know when you were in the Marines, I don't know what your exact title was, and I don't want to be rude, but you essentially were like a dog trainer, or dog handler, right? Correct?
Yep. So when I got out, I was the chief Marine instructor here at Lackland Air Force Base for the dog school. I From the time I got in until the time I got out, I was a dog handler. I had other billets like in between, but being a dog handler is definitely what I would say I was in the Marine Corps for sure.
So do you ever have to like fight the urge to train your dogs up? Because I know you have 2 dogs right now currently, right? You just got another one.
Yep, I got Gus and Baby Dale. And no, like I think a lot of handlers are like this. You get so used to being around these working dogs every day. Like every single thing that you tell these dogs to do, they do it, or you train them to do it. I had no desire for my dogs at home to do any of that stuff. I've had Gus for 7 years. He doesn't even know how to sit. Like he knows manners. He knows like when to go outside, to not shit in the house, not piss in the house, not to jump up on people, not to bark, but to lay down, sit, fetch something. Like he doesn't know any of that stuff. He just is a big, dumb, goofy bastard. And Baby Dale does whatever he wants to. And that's why I like it. Like it's a rediscovery of dogs for being dogs.
Do you think that like when you guys are in and, even if you're overseas, having a dog there, even though it is a working dog, helps the morale of your troops?
Oh man, yes. Like after the end of a long mission, like if you come into like we would call it like a pump house, or just a house that you would take over in the middle of a city. And once you get inside and you have everything fortified and you can kind of let your dog off leash, if you have like a nice dog like I did, when the other Marines that aren't normally around dogs get to be around the dogs, it's like Christmas, because it takes you back home. Like when you can lay, even if you're still in like full combat battle rattle and you're laying down on the floor and the dog comes up and like baby spoons you, it is a relaxing thing. It really is. So the recon Marines that I was with loved having Psycho around.
What a name.
Psycho?
Mm-hmm.
All-time name for a dog.
So
yeah, he's great.
So yeah, when obviously you knew this question was coming. As you stated earlier, you were injured in battle, and you almost lost your arm, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can you sort of take us through that experience for you? I know it's something you talk about like once a year, every year. And if you don't mind, I'd love for you to sort of share it with our audience.
Yeah. So when I was in a little town called Karma, and before we went on this mission brief, they had told us that this was the most dangerous road in the world that we were about to go down. And so what was going on at the time, and there was a town called Ramadi and Fallujah, and in between those towns is where a lot of the Al-Qaeda in Iraq would go back and forth. And Karma was a town where they all basically were like hanging out. So we got tasked with clearing out that area of Karma and Zion. And so whenever we got there, the night that we went in, we found, I believe it was 13 IEDs. It was either 11 or 13. And that was fine. My dog would find it. We'd move back. We'd set a charge to it, blow it up in place, and continue moving on. Well, at the end of the night, we were done. We had taken a house, kicked these people out of the house, and we were just hanging out. It was downtime. I had actually just went to sleep, like finally laid down after a long night of moving in, and gunshots and mortar rounds and everything started all at once hitting the house. And whenever you're a reconnaissance Marine, and you're out at that time, we only had 8-man teams. So we were in this house completely alone, nobody else around except for 8 of us. We had 2 on the rooftop, and the other people were doing perimeter security. And so I popped up because I knew I needed to go to a fortified position as well, so I could engage the enemy. And whenever I was doing that and I was moving through the house, a round came through a window and hit me. And I wasn't wearing any type of PPE. I had no flak jacket, nothing, because I was sleeping. If the round would have went 3 or 4 inches to the left, it would have went through my stomach and I most likely would have died. And I didn't know I had been shot at first. I thought it was just a piece of mortar, a piece of brick had flown off the house and hit me because it felt like really blunt. And I spun around and looked down and I could see like the hole in my arm. I was like, fuck, man. Like, here we go. And so I had to tie a tourniquet to my arm, move to the position that I was going to and start engaging. And then like an hour later, that's when the helicopter was finally able to come with enough mortar rounds. We had enough time where the mortar rounds had stopped where they were able to come and get me and take me out and take me to the hospital.
That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy to hear. And, you know, we had one of your co-hosts Cons on our show, you know, kind of right when we started, and you do the Chaps and Kate show. Kate was also a veteran as well. Do you think by having Zero Block 30 and your radio show, do you guys get a ton of DMs with vets asking you guys questions about getting back into normal society after? Because I know, like you said, you had some PTSD and some things like that, which, you know, Nick and I talk about very open about our mental health stuff. Do you get a lot of people reaching out to you that way?
Yeah. I mean, you name it really. Like, and we get people that reach out about it, like whatever they're kind of going through. And I think that's a special thing that Barstool has that other media companies just don't. Like, where you have this connection with your fans, with the Stoolies, where a majority of Stoolies, if they pay attention, they feel like they know us. Like they feel like they've been sitting on a bar stool right beside us, like, and we're just bullshitting about whatever's going on. And that's kind of how Barstool is designed. So as an extension of that, people do reach out all the time and tell you like what they're going through. Like, hey man, I'm excited. I'm having a baby. I wanted you guys to know I've listened to Podfathers. And they pick up little things along the way. And that's really special about working. You can't find that anywhere else, like in media at all. So I love that aspect of Barstool.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually called into the Chaps and Kate show it was a couple weeks ago, about if you could beat up an ostrich, and I said that you could. I referenced Hercules cutting off like that monster's head, and I thought you'd be able to do it with a knife. So
yeah, I definitely think I've looked more into it. Once you get your hands on it, like they have pretty big talents. So if they get, I think it's kind of like a boxer, you know, like if they
use their length.
Right. Like if you go up against Tyson Fury, you know that if he keeps you at bay and keeps you at the end of his deadly right, then you know you're fucked. But if you could get inside on Tyson Fury, you might have a shot. I think that's what I would have to do with the ostrich is once I get inside and I'm right in his grill mix, if I could wrap my arm around his neck, I for sure could rear naked choke an ostrich. No doubt about it.
So I thought the debate was that you had a knife, like a 6-inch knife.
Yeah, I think I could do it without a knife too. With a knife, it'd be easy.
So you're just essentially going to have to block one of its kicks, more or less.
Or just take one, or just know that you're going to take one big kick and you have to be able to take that one and continue to move
Did you ever
forward.
think about like sweeping the leg possibly? Get it on the ground?
Yeah, I think that's a dangerous game because once you get it on the ground, like think about if you force a dog to the ground or a cat to the ground and they don't want to be, then they start really flailing their legs. True. And if you really make that ostrich flail its leg, you might catch like a sharp talon, like right to the neck. So you got to be careful there.
I didn't think about that.
See, this is why you make the big bucks.
Yeah.
So you were a noted Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Duval.
Right.
Do we want to talk about this season?
I think that hopefully this is the season that leads you into good seasons. Like this is because you've only won one game. Hopefully the Jets can pick up a game.
Don't say that.
Maybe you'll have that. Hopefully you'll have at least you'll get Trevor or you'll get Justin Fields. I think that you'll be fine with either one of those guys. Obviously, I think you want Trevor, but Justin Fields would be a fine consolation prize.
And sort of to loop back here a little bit, you did mention people DMing you about the Podfathers and stuff like that. I'm a new dad. I had my daughter 7 weeks old. We found out on Leap Day that my wife was pregnant, and first thing I did, of course, as I'm sure you've heard this, start listening to Podfathers. And you know, you're a noted girl dad. What does being a girl dad mean to you?
I think that moniker really changed with Kobe, right? Like
Mhm.
that it's something that people really started to pay attention to. It's not something that I ever really thought about, like being just specifically a girl dad. I wanted to raise my kids in order to be strong, independent people who didn't give a fuck about their gender, who wanted to move forward and be leaders and be strong women and do things that they want to do and not feel like they have any barriers. So I treat them just like I don't know what I would do that I do differently from being a girl dad or from being just a dad. I view it the exact same way. Like bring them up strong, let them do the same exact things you want to. Don't put any barriers on them. If they want to go out and they want to help you build in the shed or they want to go out and play sports, all that's fine. Like I just don't believe in gender norms. Like for the most part, we just do what they want to do.
Mhm.
And your daughter has one of the most viral basketball videos ever. It's like Shaq dunking on people and your daughter playing defense.
And I am sick of it because places like Sports Center, they just put it up 2 days ago. Sports Center put it up on Instagram again. And they never tagged me. Those motherfuckers. Those people at there's another I forget what it's called, like Overtime or something.
Yeah,
Shit
Overtime.
like that. That's like an account. They took the video and now they get credit for it all the time. And it's like 20 million people on Sports Center don't know that it's our video. And that, but I can't be too mad about it because Barstool's done that a fair amount of times too. So it'd be bullshit if I was out there like, oh, this is my video.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, that video, my wife actually showed me that video originally. I was like, huh, that like girl, because like, you have your daughters online. I was like, that kind of seems like familiar. And then I saw your tweet. I was like, holy shit, this is going crazy. I know you just mentioned that, if they wanted to go in the shed and help you out, that you let them do that. I'm kind of a handyman, somewhat. Like I can do very basic stuff. I can hang a picture on the wall. We're looking at buying a house, and it looks like we're probably going to have to buy a home that is going to require some work. Since you're a longtime toolie now, and you've turned yourself completely into a handyman, what are some basic projects out there for people that are looking to, increase their handyman skills without destroying their house or car?
I honestly like learn how to use a circular saw. Like if you can learn how to use a circular saw, you're like halfway through a lot of projects. I mean, because really think about it, like building anything, any numbnuts can screw something in together. Like you could take a screwdriver and screw shit in. But if you can learn how to use a circular saw and use that proficiency and like you could build this entire cabinet behind me built with a circular saw and a drill. Like that's it. Like that's the only tools that you have to do. You could build so many things if you learn how to use a circular saw.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I always get intimidated when people start throwing out like jigsaw and stuff like that. It's like, definitely don't know anything about this stuff.
The one that's hard is the sawzall, like doing that proficiency, like because the blade like all hops around and stuff like that. But I am very fortunate that somebody sent me a saw stop table saw, where that's the one where if you put your finger on it, the blade will automatically stop. And so I'm not going to cut my fingers off, which is a huge
plus.
Yeah, that's a big
I mean, it's
plus.
good to have, right? Good to have all your fingers.
Yeah.
So, something else that it's just questions that all of us toolies and stoolies have is you've had diarrhea since Easter 2007. Why?
Well, it goes back from me being shot. Like, and I use that as a joke. It's really not. It's like July 31st of 2007 is the actual date. But whenever I got
still
shot,
alarming.
Yeah, the bullet had fragments that comes off like some cheap rounds. And so I had to take these lead poisoning pills, and it ripped the liner of my stomach out. So the day I got shot, I probably weighed 195, 200. When I came home 3 months later, I weighed like 142. Like I lost almost 40, 50 pounds in just a couple weeks from having taken those pills, living in a like porta potty for the most part, having my arm like casted up and constantly sweating my ass off for the rest of my deployment. It was terrible. And that's the reason why, like, because the lead poisoning pills ripped the liner of my stomach out and it never really like recovered. I'm on some stuff now that's helping, but it was brutal, man. And it's one of the side effects that people just don't talk about, I think, because a lot more people are embarrassed about that than I am. So when I go to my doctor, they're like, yeah, it's a pretty common thing. I've eaten so much Greek yogurt though to try to get back on track, and it's finally starting to work a little bit.
So do you have any tips for people? Because I have very sensitive stomach. For example, last night I had some spicy barbecue. We went to Target. Halfway through, I was yelling at my wife that we needed to hurry up. And she's like, I'm going to be here another 20 minutes. And I had to have diarrhea in Target. Do you have any tips for people pooping in public? You know, I'm a flusher as I poop. Do you have anything like that?
No, I don't do that. No,
Oh, no courtesy
If I'm
flush.
suffering, everybody else can suffer. I will never do a courtesy flush ever. I don't believe in them. But out in public, I think so many people are pussies about their butts, honestly. Like where they are just so nervous to go to the bathroom out in public. Once you get rid of that fear, you live such a much more free life, like where you don't have to worry about being home.
I'm in Chaps boat. I'm in Chaps boat here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just go where you got to go. And a bidet. If you can't go on Amazon, buy one of those little $25 bidet, hook it up to your toilet, and you'll love your butthole for the rest of the time. It's just so much better. Now when I go to New York and I don't have my bidets, I'm like, this is fucking terrible. Why do Americans live this way? Like we're one of the only industrialized countries that don't have common bidets in our homes.
Maybe you could put it on your check bag. I don't know if that's how it works, but
they have these new ones now that are like spray bottles, almost like super soakers.
Going through TSA with this giant super soaker.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Nick.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have one last question for you, Chaps. So I'm trying to think about having a relaxing day today, and I have some bananas laying around my house. And I was thinking about doing a face mask.
No, don't do it. I am so fortunate that has stopped. It was like a legit 6-month cycle. I don't know what it really was, but I had like these pores, the glands in my eyes were constantly getting clogged. I finally just started taking razor blades and cutting my eyelids open, and that's what made it go away. I watched the doctor do it while I had a selfie video going on and watched him do the procedure that I had done twice. And I was like, I could do this myself. And I did it myself, and now it's gone away. Now I don't have to go back to the eye doctor all the time.
Was that one of the biggest regrets you've ever had, putting that banana mask on your face?
If that was truly the cause, yes. I mean, that was just unbelievably stupid. But I did see a video of somebody doing it. So it can't be that, or maybe it is. Maybe it got in there and got all clogged up. I don't know, but it is something that I deeply regret.
Wasn't it just right? Kind of stuff. Wasn't it right after you did that banana face mask it started happening?
Yes, it was pretty close after. So I mean, the doctor said there's no way, but I'm like, look, man, I never had any issues before, and now I do. It's got to be banana-induced pink eye.
At first, did you think it was just like the worst case of original pink eye, and then you were like, the bananas, that's where it was?
Well, when I told the doctor that I thought I had banana-induced pink eye, the look on his face was just incredible. Like he was like, "That's not a thing." I was like, "Well, look at my face."
Well,
dude.
buddy, I got clearly.
The evidence is looking you right in the mouth.
Well, all right, Chaps. I got nothing left for you, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. You know, as I stated earlier, I'm in the military right now, and you know, you're a hero of mine as a dad, as a military member, as an NCO. You know, like you said, you've taken, you know, you give some leadership advice, and it's something that I listen to. Yesterday, I sent my troops home early because I was like, hey, I want to go home early, and if I'm going to go home early, you guys can go home early.
There you go. Yeah, that's a huge thing, man. Like if you're listening and you are a military person, if you could send your people home, do it. They're going to love you. The military is going to get their time back anyways. So if you have the authority and the ability to send them home, fucking send them home.
Yeah, absolutely. Man. So,
and Chaps, where can the people find you online?
Uncle Chaps, they can find me there on basically every single platform known to man. Listen to Zero Blog 30 anywhere you listen to podcasts. Listen to the Chaps and Kate show on Sirius XM, at least for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
we don't know where that's gonna go, but we'll have radio somewhere. It'll either be Sirius or it'll be some other platform that we haven't even discovered yet, but it'll be around still.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.